Hello and welcome to the Chelsea debate. My name's Dom Toner, and if you enjoy the content here, please like and subscribe on the button below. Okay, really exciting episode today. We're going to be looking at the Thomas Tuchel reign and how it started last night with a 0-0 draw against Wolves. We're also going to be looking at any transfer rumours with just a few days left in the January window, and we're going to look ahead to this weekend's game against Burnley. Helping me though with all this to my left is Josh Langford. Josh, you okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. You?
I'm good, mate. Right, last night then, 0-0, and it was the start of a new manager at Chelsea, and it was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it, straight in? Nobody knew what to expect, and he went in with what looked like a 3-4-3, a 3-4-1-2. Where everyone was guessing the lineup. There was a lot of talk on Twitter when it came out, and what did you think of how the team looked, first of all?
Well, it was quite surprising. It was good to see him go straight in, and he's tried some different tactics. But with only one training session, you do sort of question whether that'll be his preferred system going forward.
Yeah, it was a lot of confusion, and even throughout the game, it wasn't quite clear what was taking place. The big talking point, really, though, was Callum Hudson-Odoi, not just for his man of the match performance, but also that he was playing as a right wing back and even ended up as a left wing back later on. So he was a massive positive, wasn't he, last night?
Yeah, massive positive. Obviously, man of the match performance, but for me, it was the hunger. And only 20 years old, the fact that he sort of took it, he did seem to take it in his stride. And it's a drastically different job than what he was doing sort of under the previous manager. So it was really good to see him get stuck in. He put a few good tackles in throughout the game as well, so I thought it was really positive.
Yeah, there was that moment, wasn't there, at the end where he came back, last-ditch tackle, and Wolves didn't have a lot of chances at all. They sat back, and even joked with my mate, a Wolves fan, that they have the Portuguese Sam Allardyce, because that's all they did. They sat back, but there was that chance, and Callum Hudson-Odoi breaking back last second, and that sort of is going to get really big brownie points with the manager, you think. And it was also nice to see him sort of creating. It was 0-0, as we know. We had 79% possession. There wasn't a lot of chances, but one bright spot was definitely him, because he was trying. He put one good ball into the box early on that Giroud could have got on, but it's encouraging, isn't it, what he could do in the next few for the rest of the season, perhaps.
Yeah, very encouraging. Like I said, I was just thrilled to see he can get the start. Obviously, the new job. Obviously, just said the new job was a bit of a surprise, but yeah, I think it shows a lot of promise going forward, and yeah, I'm definitely excited to see where it can go from here.
Yeah, it's good. Right, another person I wanted to talk about was Kovacic, because there wasn't a lot of standout performers. He didn't lose on his debut, so that's a positive in that sense. There wasn't a lot of standouts, but Kovacic in that midfield, he played as a pivot next to Jorginho. What did you make of the Croatian?
I thought he had a good game. Yeah, he did well, but I think it was like a 7, maybe 8 out of 10 performance. I thought what he did well. But yeah, I've got my sort of reservations about him generally, and I just think when Kante is back fit, I just question if he really is a nailed-on starter. But no, he did have a good game. He was one of the better players on the pitch. So yeah.
Yeah, it was him and Jorginho. You definitely have to say that Kovacic was the one that stood out. I put something out on Twitter. Our Twitter, by the way, is @Chelsea_debate. So if you're enjoying anything or disagree, just tweet in on that. I put something out about Kovacic, and there was a bit of a mixed bag. A lot of people are happy in the sense that he looks to get forward, but I just feel he can do a bit more, because he's got the ability, hasn't he? Perhaps that forward pass, and maybe over time that's something he can add to his game, because he's got the talent, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely got the talent. I think it's the forward pass that he's lacking, and especially sort of with him and Jorginho last night. I think it was just getting a bit almost frustrating at times. Wolves, as we sort of already sort of said, they really did come and sat for a 0-0 draw the whole game, which is fine. But I just think between the pair of them, you possibly needed a bit more sort of energy almost. It's sort of hard to put your finger on, but yeah, I think the forward pass needs to be added to his game. Hopefully now under Tuchel that can be sort of added to the game. And then I think we might start seeing a very different quality of player overall.
Yeah, it'd be great if he could get back to that form when he was player of the season. He's definitely got that. It's just finding that midfield balance, I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah, he is a big favourite of mine anyway, and I really want to see how that pans out. With Kante coming back as well, we suspect perhaps that could be the makeup of the midfield. You've got Mason Mount, but we'll get onto him in a minute. Another positive I've got marked down here is Thiago Silva. Now, look, it wasn't a game where we had to do a lot of defensive work at all. So, I'm not calling him out for a defensive masterclass or anything like that. But he is one of the few that have worked with the manager at PSG. So they had that rapport and, he's got the experience. And he just looked to me on the pitch. He's a presence back there. We played a back three last night, as we alluded to, with wing backs who pretty much spent the entire game in the final third. So it was very much Thiago Silva in the middle, Rudiger played to the left and Aspi on the right. But he looked composed in there, and he's going to be a big player, isn't he, under this manager?
Yeah, I think he is. As you sort of just said, he's played under Tuchel before. They had a very successful time together at PSG. I mean, obviously, you do have to sort of take their domestic form with a pinch of salt, because obviously it's the French league where competition's thin. But obviously, they fell just shy of winning the Champions League together last year. So no, I think he'll be a massive favourite of Tuchel's, and he's been brilliant since the season started, hasn't he? I think there's question marks. Would he adapt to the league with his age? But he's been brilliant. I mean, for me, value-wise, he's been the best sort of signing the Premier League's had for quite some time when you take into account he came in on a free. So, no, I think he'll be in there. He's nailed on starter. I think the question mark is who partners him, or if he stays as a three, in which case then obviously a few more people will get a look in.
Yeah, it's disappointing, isn't it, that maybe we could have broke the bank a few years ago for him.
Well,
he's clearly, he's got a bit of everything. There wasn't a lot of defensive work. I think there was one tackle he made, might have been on Neto or Podence. It was just a perfectly timed tackle. It's just an old school defender, isn't he? And he's a real leader in that team. So yeah, big positive Thiago Silva last night.
Yeah, definitely. That's what you get with him, though, isn't it? It is the presence, the name, the experience. He just, he's been there and done it all, hasn't he? Obviously AC Milan before PSG, so he's played at the highest level. And for me, the biggest thing about him is how, he'll help develop the other players, not just in defence. It'll help all the youngsters have a model professional in the dressing room, so as they can see how to do things right, clearly on and off the pitch. Because to be shown the form he is at his age, he really has been a revelation.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've got a couple more positives down here. We've got to bear in mind Tuchel, one training session, so there's nothing hypercritical on him today. We're not, going to go into him at all. And if in fact he's looked really charismatic, I've really enjoyed the few bits of media he's done. He had a press conference today. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him. And it's difficult for anyone to step into the shoes of Frank Lampard. So, as he's alluded to, it's not his fault. But he's doing very well. One slight thing though, he left out Mason Mount and Pulisic at the starting 11. Now he said himself it was difficult. There wasn't, he had one session to go off. He said it was the most difficult team he could select. But to the credit of Mount and Pulisic, when they both came on, they made an impact. And you'd say perhaps going forward, maybe they've put a case to say, look, we should be starting under your, in your team.
Yeah, definitely. I was deeply frustrated at particularly Mount being left out. But as you said, you'd like to say it would be because he had one session. Obviously, they played a lot of football recently. I mean, even Pulisic is sort of, while other attackers have been sort of rotated, he has been sort of an ever-present figure. So I really do hope it's just he thought that they could do with perhaps a bit of a rest going into the weekend. But no, when they came on, I thought they made the most of it. They looked bright. And they look like a threat. And obviously under the new manager, that's sort of all they did as much as they could have done for me, obviously short of scoring or whatever. But no, they look bright, and I fingers crossed that they'll return, because obviously we know what Pulisic can do when he's on form, which is exciting. And obviously even recently, Mason Mount's been probably our best player, most passionate player. So I really hope they get back in the team for the weekend and put on a performance and kick on from there, really.
Yeah, I think if we go Mount, first of all, he was on for a very short time, but he just lit the game up. I think there was one moment in the box. It was a nice little turn to get to the byline. Didn't quite lead to anything, but, he just injects a bit of something. We're going to play that formation long term. I've got no idea if we are. It's quite interesting as to whether he'll be, part of the two midfield pivot, or yesterday he played a three in attack. He played a focal point in Giroud, and then he had Havertz and Ziyech in sort of not even wide roles, sort of two creative tens. I think that's where Mount came on, and you'd see him there, wouldn't you, in that sort of creative spark, because he's the one that really gets us going, isn't he?
Yeah, but again, and he's been doing that for a number of weeks now. So I mean, the good thing is, I think, you look at his age and experience, the fact that he's shown at different times. I mean, against Leicester, he was a bit deeper and he still impacted the game. And then, as you've said, playing a bit more advanced, he showed he can come on. He's got that, the turn of pace, the pivot. So, yeah, I think he needs to be back in the team, doesn't he? The one big concern is that, well, it's become a bit of I think on social media with Mason and Frank's relationship. You just worry that, Tuchel's not going to come in and favour Kai. And I really hope Mason kicks on and keeps developing, because, I mean, obviously me and you spoke about it, but the sky's the limit for him. It really is.
Yeah, for me, I think he will get back in. That was just, a one-off game. And a lot's being said about the formation as well. It's not clear. It looks like maybe he'll stick with that at the beginning, but traditionally, if we look back to his time at PSG and Dortmund, that's not been a set formation, so I wouldn't rule out him changing it. And I think he played a lot of 4-3-3, I'm pretty sure, at PSG. So
yeah, he did.
I see Mount perhaps more in the 8 position he was thriving, with Frank. But I think wherever you put him, he's going to do well. Just quickly as well on Pulisic, he's a player, I absolutely adore Pulisic. I think, for talent-wise, he could be our best player, and he is when he's on form. He's one of the other two alongside Silva who's worked alongside the manager. So, that should be to his advantage, shouldn't it, really?
Yeah, it'll be to his advantage. Obviously, Tuchel's got sort of prior knowledge of him. Obviously, he knows what he can do because he sort of shone at Dortmund, hence why we signed him. So, yeah, I think, and you'd like to think as a Chelsea fan, he will be able to get the best out of him quicker. Because obviously, different things motivate different players. He's already got that knowledge. So, yeah, hopefully he can really, again, kick on and keep developing, because he does look an exciting talent when he's on form.
Yeah, he does. Right, so I've got a negative section here, but as we say, it's not really a negative section, because we don't want to get on our new manager, and I'm really excited about what he's going to do. But look, it was a 0-0 draw, wasn't it, against a Wolves team who are certainly not exciting this year, not like they have been, and going through a bit of a rough patch without Raul Jimenez. So for all our possession, this isn't so much on the manager, but the players out on the pitch, big point to prove, a lot of eyes on them. Could have created more, couldn't we? Because there wasn't really a lot of spark in there. I think Kovacic had a shot that went wide. I couldn't really think at the top of my head a lot of clear-cut chances. So, it's not a good result, isn't it, in the wider scheme, but perhaps something to build on, maybe, for a clean sheet, maybe?
Yeah, the clean sheet's obviously good news, because, we have sort of conceded goals recently, not masses, but there's just not been many clean sheets. So that's a positive. But, the league table's not pretty now. Wolves are massively out of form. They're not the team that they have been sort of since they came back into the Premier League. So it was disappointing, but again, like you said, we can't get too sort of hung up on it. We've got to focus on the fact that he had only had one training session. So it's hard to pick his team. And to be fair, Nuno has proved himself a bit of a master tactician at times. And they didn't really show it. There was no urgency. There was, I don't want to say time wasting, but like every time they had a set piece, it was taking nearly a minute to actually do. So time was eating up. They came for a 0-0 draw and they got it. It's sort of as simple as that. We could have created more, but it was a different formation. It's a new system and with one session. So I think you've just got to take it as a clean sheet. It's a positive start.
Yeah.
All eyes on Burnley.
Yeah, I think if we go ahead and win against Burnley, perhaps we'll look at this as a good point and a good sort of building block. But if we don't, it won't be. One small negative, and this, again, is only a small thing, but Ben Chilwell stood out for me. He struggled a bit. He didn't quite, he actually got pulled off and he was a bit surprised. I don't know if you saw it. He was like me when he got subbed because Hudson-Odoi moved over to that left wing-back position. Out of all the Chelsea signings, he's perhaps been one of the brighter ones, but I think of late, we're starting to see a bit of a reason why Leicester fans weren't too bothered about selling him for 50 mil, because he just wasn't, the spark wasn't quite there, and he can definitely do better, can't he, than he showed last night, and he has in recent weeks.
But he can definitely do better, and for me, he already has done better in a Chelsea shirt. It wasn't his best performance, obviously, by a long stretch. Sort of make no bones about that. But sort of one bad game. I mean, even saying bad's potentially harsh, but yeah, one bad game doesn't make a bad player.
Yeah.
So I just think, again, he just needs to bounce back from it and get back to doing what he can do. Obviously, there has been criticisms about, particularly the defensive side of his game. So I think he's definitely a player that's in need of some coaching. And I think hopefully under Tuchel, with all the European experience, he's managed some big players. Hopefully he can bring him on. And I think with the right sort of training in place, I think he could be sort of one of the best left backs that the Premier League's certainly got today, or even ever had, really. I do think he's got that potential.
So if we're sticking with wing backs, you're not tempted to bring Marcus Alonso back? No?
No.
You're sticking with Chilwell?
He can stay where he is.
Yeah, okay. And interesting as well, we didn't score, so all eyes have got to go on the striker, Giroud. He got the nod. This was off the back of Tammy scoring a hat-trick in the previous one. So you can't really blame the manager for that, because he wasn't involved. He went with the experience, and you can understand that. But a bit of a wasted opportunity, and I'd be surprised maybe if he keeps the spot. I don't know what you think about that, but Giroud, he just wasn't quite falling for him. The other attackers as well, Havertz and Ziyech, weren't scoring the goals or getting in the positions. But I don't know, just perhaps a wasted opportunity. I don't know what you think about that.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Wasted opportunity. Could have and should have done more. Okay, you've got sort of Kai behind him, who certainly isn't in great form. But yeah, he just should have done more. I was really surprised Tammy wasn't included. I mean, if I'm being brutally honest, I thought he'd have started with Timo. I just sort of had that feeling, sort of obviously following on from media reports, that's sort of been his objective, to go in and develop Timo and Kai. But obviously Tammy after the weekend, I mean, again, he wasn't involved, as you said, but to leave a striker who's just scored a hat-trick out, it was quite surprising. But yeah, I don't think Giroud will keep his place on the weekend. I think he'll go with Timo. But again, I'd love to see Tammy get an opportunity. He deserves it after his weekend performance.
Yeah. All right, we can move on to some transfer things, which really quickly there. Kai Havertz, Ziyech, in those creative roles. New system. I think for Kai Havertz in particular, seen a few videos about, and a few nice touches. There was one moment in particular, a nice driving run forward, and that's what we need to see more of. It's not just going to click like that for him, but if he builds his confidence up and the manager takes a fancy to him, they're the kind of glimpses that he was showing all the time at Leverkusen, and we need to see that, don't we, all the time in the Chelsea shirt.
Yeah, it's hard to sort of work out what's sort of taking so long when they initially sign. You do think, well, it might take a little bit of time, but he's had a bit of time now. So I'm keen to see him, like you say, I'm just keen to see him get going now, because at Leverkusen it was really promising. And when he signed, you were thinking, that's a proper player we've just signed. So, yeah, hopefully Tuchel will be able to get the best out of him.
Yeah, definitely. Right, quickly, transfer stuff. There's not a lot. The January window, of course, with the current climate of things, it's not been one of the busiest January windows, but sort of historically, they get a bit busier towards the end. Only a few days left now. I don't expect, definitely no incomings for Chelsea. There might be the odd outgoing in terms of like a youngster out of nowhere going, but the one that's been heavily talked about is Billy Gilmour at the minute. There's a lot of contrasting reports on it. Conflicting reports. Some saying that he's going, some saying that he's asked to leave. Thomas Tuchel today in his press conference said that he's not looking, he's got 21, 22 players in the squad. He's not looking to get rid of anyone. And he also put a nice line in about Billy Gilmour as a player. He's tactically aware, but he just needs to know if he's strong enough physically. So a lot of conflicting things. And I've seen reports that clubs like West Ham could be interested in a loan deal. What do you think? If he was to leave on loan, would you be happy with that? And to who? A Premier League team, abroad? Just overall, what do you reckon?
I mean, it depends on Thomas Tuchel's plans, really. If he's not going to get many minutes, then yeah, I'd like to see him go out on loan, particularly to sort of an informed West Ham side, but somewhere where there's a bit more chance of a positive run in a Premier League side where they're getting results, so confidence is high. I'd be disappointed to see him go to potentially a struggling Premier League side or even a Championship side. I think that would be a waste. But, I mean, in a perfect world for me, I'd keep him there. He'd be getting minutes. I liked what he did on the weekend in sort of what we were saying was a sort of a long overdue start. So I'd like to see him get a run. I thought he did enough. But again, now it's a new manager. Sort of one man can answer that. I know obviously publicly he's saying that he's not looking to get rid of anybody, but I don't know. Maybe a 6-month loan would do him good and he'd come back a different player. It's hard to say.
I think for me, I would keep him and I'd play him ahead of Jorginho, because I can't see anything in Jorginho's game that Billy Gilmour can't do. And for me, I'd rather put it into, a young player who's developing, has got so much potential. I'd rather see him in the pecking order above. Nothing against Jorginho, we know what he is, there's no secret, and he's got experience, but I'm really excited about Billy Gilmour, and I'd prefer him to be pushed, up the pecking order, but, we'll see about that. Okay, this weekend, though, it's at home to Burnley. I think it's Sunday lunchtime we're playing. Did you have a predicted team for me or not?
I do. No, I do. I do have. It's really hard. So I think you'll be pulling me on a few names, and I think I could be completely wrong. But I've got obviously Mendy in goal, Reece James back in, Silva, Zuma, Chilwell.
Is this a back four?
And then I have gone a back four. Yeah, I think you just perhaps need that more security. Burnley are in form. And then this is where it gets tricky now, because I've got the names, but I haven't necessarily got the rest of the formation.
Is this your 11 or the 11 you think will be?
This is my 11. I think it's sort of it's too soon to start predicting what Thomas will do.
Yeah.
So then obviously after Chilwell, Callum Hudson-Odoi, he's looked really good. He needs to stay in. I think Kovacic will keep his place, and sort of on current form, I probably would let him. Mason Mount comes back.
Yeah.
Pulisic's back in. Kai Havertz gets another nod. And then I've put Tammy. I'd love to see Tammy in there. So
it's essentially sort of a 4-2-2-2.
Yeah.
Or 4-2 out of possession. I don't know. I mean, just based off what he did, I'm guessing he's going to go the same. But it's a good point, isn't it, on Reece James? Because he didn't feature at all. And he, along with Mason Mount, were sort of two of the nailed-on starters under Frank, and rightfully so as well. They were performing to the level to deserve that. So, be interesting to see what happens with Reece James. Could he play it as a right centre back in a back three? Because I've seen a lot of people say that he could do that. Or
I think he could do that, and it's something that we might see. But I just think he's brilliant going forward. I mean, people talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I honestly think Reece James is just as good, and certainly, he's got the potential to go on and be better. So I think if you did that, you'd lose an element of his game that's perhaps one of his strongest elements, in fairness. So no, I just think, you look at who you're playing. We're playing against an informed Burnley side. They're coming off 3 wins now. Obviously, one against Liverpool, I know out of form, but still impressive. Villa again in form, and they got the win there last night. So I just think I'd go with the back four, a bit more protection, and I still think with in the rest of my 11, you've got enough creativity and potential to cause Burnley issues and score goals.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I suppose they're the sort of lineups that people were predicting before his first game. So I don't know, maybe he'll mix it. He's had a few more days with the team in training. It's a good point though, Burnley, because they're actually in form. They really did look at themselves early in the season, but they sort of picked it up. For some reason, I'm scared of Chris Wood. I don't know why. He frightens me. So I think we beat them 3-0 earlier in the season.
We did.
So, confidence from that different team.
It was a different side. Ben Mee was out. They looked fragile defensively. They were leaking goals. They've sort of shored that all up. It's a different game now, and as you say, it's a worry, and I think it's a potential banana skin, which in the new manager's second game, we definitely, we need to be winning this game. It's at home as well.
You don't want to put the pressure on, but you almost feel like he's come in that we've got to win this game, haven't we? Like,
yeah, you don't want to amplify the pressure, but the pressure's there. He's come in halfway through his season. Frank's only gone because things weren't going as well as they should.
Yeah.
So the pressure's there. You've come in halfway through a season. We need to get, as a minimum, the top 4. Yeah, you can't be losing or drawing to Burnley at home. And, even the draw is 2 points dropped. So, no, he's got the pressures there.
I think we want to do one little segment here, don't we, at the end about a legend talk. But just overall, Thomas Tuchel, first impressions, happy? Because I'm fairly happy with what I see. Very, very early days.
Yeah, very, very early days. Happy with what we're seeing. Yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster this week, hasn't it? So, yeah. So no, I'm happy. I'll be happier after the weekend and 3 points.
Yeah, I'm a lot more upbeat. If you want to see me a bit sadder, check out the video from the day. We're gonna post it at the same time.
Yeah, we were broken.
Frank went and yeah, I'm not normally like that, but yeah, not very happy. Okay, so you want to, on these episodes, bit of fun. You want to finish on what's it called? Is it Legend Talk? Is that your segment?
It is Legend Talk. Don't pretend like you don't know.
Well, I don't know beyond this. This is all I know is you were doing a segment, and I'll just let you get on with it. So, what is it?
Yeah, I just think we should shine the light on players gone by. So today, I want to talk a little bit about Idiger Johnson.
Ooh, legend.
I know he's a little favourite of yours.
Icon.
I would say legend. But people may disagree. If you do, tweet us in and tell me. But I would say legend.
Okay, what have you got? What stats?
Well, I did a little bit of research. 262 Chelsea appearances, 78 goals, 32 assists. There were some important goals and assists I do want to add into that because it's not the most impressive stat. But I think you have to look at the fact that he did play in the Abramovich era, but he came in before the Abramovich era.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just how hard working a player he was. I just, being a young lad watching football, he was just one of those players. You just wanted to be him. You fact, imitating him in the school playground and having your hairstyle like him. He was just brilliant. Everything he contributed to the team was fantastic. Okay, he could have been more prolific, but as I've just said, he wasn't in the Abramovich era. There were less stars. Lampard was there, but he was an emerging talent developing. So you do have to think about these things. And you can't forget, he went to Barcelona off the back of it in a team that at the time, he was a substitute, but in a team with Messi, Henry, Eto'o,
Ronaldinho,
there's no shame in that.
Ronaldinho must have been there at the time.
I think perhaps tail end, he may have gone to AC Milan, but yeah. But, we talk about that team. He was a part of that squad as one of the best club football sides potentially ever. So to get into that squad at all is a massive compliment to him when you think about it.
Yeah, I love Idiger Johnson. You were saying there about running around, people looking. I had literally his hair. I had blonde hair. I've not been cut in a while, so hence the hat. But I did have bright blonde hair, and I had an obsession with Johnson. So, yeah, for me, he'd be in that bracket. I think he played like sort of a 9.5. Like, he wasn't just an out-and-out 9. He'd drop in, and really intelligent player. He's like a hero in Iceland. Like, they absolutely love him. He's like the face of none of this Gylfi Sigurdsson. It's about Idiger Johnson. And yeah, one of the first players when I started getting into Chelsea, it was like him and Hasselbank, and that was the sort of, and Zola, obviously. They were the players. So yeah, absolutely love Idiger Johnson.
There you go. I just thought we've got to shine the light on him to start things off.
Yeah, love it. A great start. We'll see who we've got next week. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining us. And if you agree or disagree, or want to send in your teams for Burnley, you can either put it in the comments below or send it on Twitter at Chelsea_debate, because I'll always be on hand to reply, or Josh will. So
yeah, and if there's any legends anybody wants talking about, again, tweet us in and we'll get them included.
Brilliant. All right, thank you for joining us.